Hello, everyone. Welcome to another TWSN exclusive show for the U.S. men's soccer team World Cup qualifier here in the month of November. I'm Tom Seipp alongside Christian DeBlock and Shaun Chornobroff. Gentlemen, how are we tonight?
I'm a complete delight. There's no other place I'd rather be than looking at Christian DeBlock, and I guess I could deal with Tom Seipp.
Thank you, sir. Block?
Tom, Shaun's given some excellent energy at 1:08 in the morning right now as we record this, so credit to him. But yeah, excited about these two matches. It's going to be a fun couple weeks of watching U.S. soccer.
Yeah, well, thanks for admitting the time that we are doing this. I'm sure my mom will love to hear that when she listens. So, of course, coming off a good month of October for the United States team. On October 7th, they beat Jamaica 2-0. Then they ended up losing to Panama 1-0 in a tough one. And then they ended out the month beating Costa Rica 2-1, which slight flex I was in attendance for. So now as we head into the month of November, we only got 2 games this go around. And the first one will be in Cincinnati, Ohio against Mexico on Friday, November 12th. And then November 16th, U.S. will head to Jamaica in game 2 of their 2-game set. So we'll start, of course, by talking about game 1, U.S.-Mexico, round 1 of 2 rounds here in the qualifying stage. DeBlock, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts and what's your mini preview for the U.S.-Mexico game?
Yeah, so as any of our viewers would know, Mexico against the U.S. men's national team has become the glorified rivalry in CONCACAF per se. So this is going to be a tough match, regardless of the fact that the U.S. will be playing at home. With John Brooks not being available, which we can definitely discuss throughout the video, as he was not picked for Greg Berhalter's squad. It's going to be difficult to stop Raul Jimenez, who is the most notable piece of the Mexican side, the striker who plays for Wolves, who's been dealing with a head injury, now is fully recovered and has been scoring for both club and country. So it's going to be an exciting match. I don't see many goals coming from either side. I think it's going to be super tight. Both teams are going to stay a little laid back. I'd like to see the U.S. be a little more attacking because I know one of the keys for the Mexican side is they're missing, I believe, 2 of their top 4 center backs. I think one's suspended and one's injured. So they're going to be dealing with some lack of continuity at the back, which could favor the U.S. men's national team. But the one thing to watch out for is not only the impact of Pulisic off the bench, which we obviously know now that Berhalter has come out and said he will not be starting after missing basically 2 months with an ankle injury that he suffered in the September window, which we first discussed about a few months ago. Whether or not he goes with Paul Arriola or Tim Weah up front on that right wing spot is a major question for me. I think if he starts Tim Weah, it certainly favors the U.S. But if he starts Paul Arriola, who seems to be one of his guys, we could be in for a long night. So it's a tough match. I would like to say the U.S. could pick up all 3 points, but it's going to be tough. I think you could see maybe 1 or 2 goals for each side, and that could make the difference between 3 points, 1 point, and no points for the U.S.
Shaun, what do you think?
I'll be honest, the thing I'm looking at, we could talk about roster, we could talk about it all. The thing I'm also looking at is the home field advantage, right? The game's going to be played in Cincinnati at TQL Stadium, the stadium for FC Cincinnati. Really nice, rabid soccer fan base there. I'd almost compare it to Sporting Kansas City or what you see in Seattle. I may not be up to that level yet, but it's one of the big emergent fan bases. I remember it was 2017 or late 2016. I went to a World Cup qualifier for the USA Costa Rica at Red Bull Arena. I'm from New Jersey, and there was just so much Costa Rican support there. You wouldn't have even realized it was a home game. Geoff Cameron had a bad game in the back. Ended up losing a major qualifier. We ended up not qualifying for the World Cup. The Americans ended up not qualifying for the World Cup in 2018, right? This is a huge qualifier right here. Major qualifier, not just bragging rights, standings-wise as well. Every win you get is you're 1 step closer to the World Cup. You only got 1 more round of qualifying after this. You're going on the road. Can Cincinnati be a big enough venue? It's 26,000 people. It's not like, like the Big House or like a lot of the or Soldier Field. It's 26,000. How much can 26,000 feel like on game night? I think it could feel like a lot. If this fan base is as good as the U.S. men's national team thinks it can be, the federation, it's going to be a big advantage. But if it's not, if this feels like another one of those Costa Rica type Red Bull Arena type clunkers, there's going to be some major questions to the federation. There's been a lot already. There's a U20 tournament going on. No head coach until around a week or so before the tournament. Roster name not 1 or 2 days after. So you have to question the organization, but also Greg Berhalter put his guts in his MLS guys, right? They didn't go with any Jordan Pefok. They didn't go with like a Daryl DK, you know, somebody with a little bit more experience at the striker spot. They went with Jesus Ferreira at the striker spot. There's no forward experience. There's no one who makes me overly like optimistic, like, hey, who's going to get my goals? I really don't know, especially with Pulisic not playing. Jesus Ferreira, Ricardo Pepi, Tim Weah, those are like really the only 3 guys that can play a pure striker spot, and Weah is now used more as a winger than a striker. Just at a younger age, I felt like he could have kicked over. So who's going to score my goals? Who's my veteran guy there? Who's been in that situation? They've already said Zach Steffen's going to start. No John Brooks. Am I supposed to go in with a Mark McKenzie, Chris Richards back line? I'm really looking forward to seeing a couple of these players. Walker Zimmerman. I'm sorry. I'm not sold on the squad. The squad selection's a problem. There were multiple major exclusions, including Conrad De La Fuente, who would have been a nice depth piece on the wing. So Luca De La Torre has been one of the best possessive midfielders in the Eredivisie this season over in Netherlands. I would love to have great possession soccer be played against Mexico. Berhalter's squad selection, I get his loyalty to some of these guys. But since the summer, Calvin Acosta has not been overly impressive to me. Sebastian Lletget has not played many. When we play Mexico and those major opponents, I've not been overly impressed. He looks great when we play the Virgin Islands or like us, the Caribbean, some team from the Caribbean. Is he going to look great against Mexico? I don't think so. There's too much youthful talent here. There are better midfielders that we could have taken. Christian Roldan's been underwhelming for club. I would have Weston McKennie. We're going to need to step up big time. But legitimately, there is no veteran center back I love. I'm sorry. I get that John Brooks has been a little bit underwhelming lately. You need John Brooks for this game. You need someone who can take control of that back. You're telling me Walker Zimmerman is supposed to defend these guys? Chris Richards, who's made, what, 1 of 4 appearances?
In one competitive game.
What?
He's only made 1 competitive start, which was last month.
Yeah.
And he's like 21 years old.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's no veteran presence. There's no sense of maturity that I really trust. Acosta was great against Mexico in the summer, but his form's dipped a little bit since then. There are other guys I would have rather had in the squad. They didn't bring a Jordan Pefok, a Daryl DK, a guy who's known as a goal scorer. They're going to put their trust in either Ricardo Pepi and Jesus Ferreira. And I get bringing Pepi. You have to bring Pepi after the complete form he's been in, the way he's been for FC Dallas. But Jordan Pefok should have been in the squad. Josh Sargent, a guy who can be a pest for defenses, should have been in the squad, even with his poor form. Even Matthew Hoppe, who I get that he hasn't been playing for club, but is actually somebody who's been
relentless.
He's put up in big moments, should be in this squad. There is nobody who's shown up for me in a big moment who can get a big goal other than Brendan Aronson, but that's not a pure forward. I need a pure forward, and I need a more experienced center back, and Berhalter said screw it. And if they don't beat Mexico, and then they're going to have to go on the road to Jamaica, if they don't look good in those games, there's going to be some major questions asked about Berhalter. We are at a make or break point over the next year for U.S. men's national team for the near future. I really believe that with this U20 tournament, some of these younger guys stepping into bigger roles at their clubs, and then into the 22 World Cup, we are at the start of a golden generation. You can't afford to mismanage it now. You need to give the proper guys the proper playing time. You need to set a certain pecking order in your squad. You need to trust the veteran guys to get you where you need to go, or else what's the point? Do you think John Brooks is feeling more empowered than ever? He should be wearing the armband for the match with Pulisic not starting. But he's not even in the squad. I'm sorry. I get that his form's been bad. I get that he's been inconsistent. And I was the first one to credit Berhalter for subbing him out in the summer when they played Mexico. Or I'm not going to credit him this time for completely excluding him. The guy has come up time and time again, and that should be rewarded. And for a couple MLS guys, for Walker freaking Zimmerman, it's not an excuse. For Mark McKenzie, who's a role player in Belgium, a good Belgian team, but still, like, no. John Brooks, go back to 14. For the past more than half a decade, he's been putting up big moments. And you're expecting me to get excited about Walker Zimmerman? He plays in Nashville. They don't even have a good defense. You think he's a very good center back. I would love him coming off the bench. Personally, Miles Robinson Robinson, who's also in the squad, I'm hoping he gets a start. Miles Robinson's better than him, but that's the center back I'm most excited to see. I'm excited to see some of these other guys, but I'm not confident in them on that big level. I'll be honest, the defender I'm most confident in to come up big, weirdly, a guy I have a gut feeling about, Joe Scally. He doesn't even have an appearance. He's been great in the Bundesliga. He's 19 years old. He's a future star. I think he'll be our number 3 outside back. But who the hell do I trust? I trust these people as much as I trust my 13-year-old brother operating my car. I don't, and right now I'm treading towards trusting Berhalter just as much. He had an amazing summer, and I've been the one preaching the championship hangover. I've been saying I get why you trust these MLS guys. Don't get too cute. Don't get too smart. Go with the guys. Bring in the Joe Scallys. Get those guys opportunities, but don't lose what got you to this point. Don't lose the building blocks who emerged after 18 and have been consistent pieces. I respect keeping Leggett, but Leggett's not been an elite guy for this team. Acosta has had moments, but he spent years out of the squad. I get him including in the squad, but he's not a guy who should be starting. There are certain guys who he is showing loyalty to. I'm sorry, don't deserve it. And there are certain guys that deserve the loyalty who have earned those opportunities, like a Pefok, even though he hasn't been here a while, but he's a guy I'm excited about. And most importantly, John Brooks. Luca De La Torre has been a very good player in the Eredivisie. This MLS bias, I'm sorry, there's no reason Luca De La Torre should be in the squad or shouldn't be in the squad over Christian Roldan, over Kellen Acosta. He's been one of the most efficient dribblers in the Eredivisie. And I'm sorry, and he's been pretty good for the national team when he's played. I'm sorry, there's no reason. It's kind of unexcusable. Even Josh Sargent has actual experience. There's a lack of experience, and you're expecting them to play your biggest rival and go get a victory. I'm extremely skeptical. I'll admit it. And it's going to be a problem if they lose, because you're going to start hearing those chirps at Berhalter again. Hopefully those guys rally around him. But like me and Christian, like Christian said before the show, it's going to be hard to travel to Jamaica. You need to get points in this Mexico game, and he's not doing himself any favors.
Is that all?
Yeah, keep going, but we only have so much time.
Only have so much time. That was about 13 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit more.
Sorry, buddy.
No, I mean, I'm completely cool with it. But there's obviously a lot to unpack with what Shaun just said. And obviously a big topic that he was talking about is the roster construction. So the block, I'm obviously going to turn it over to you because Shaun basically just gave us his answer for it. So what did you think about the roster construction, and who do you like on the roster, who do you not like on the roster, and what's your assessment?
Yeah, I allude to a lot of what Shaun said in the last 13 minutes, which we'll go back on. But I think the most shocking thing is the Jesus for inclusion, and Shaun talks about him as a striker. It's funny enough because I think he's actually played more as a 10 underneath Ricardo Pepi for Dallas. So he's not really a striker, and he's our backup striker. That's really problematic. I know Jossie Zardes would be a name that people would talk about, but he's injured. But yeah, a lack of experience across the board is a major concern in this group. John Brooks not being included is the most shocking thing. I think we all could have expected. It's funny because he's played well for Wolfsburg, played against Salzburg in the Champions League, I think a week and a half ago, and somehow finds himself not in this squad. Mark Mckenzie, like Shaun mentioned, who's been a role player for Genk, only has made one start over the last month for his club team, which is not good enough. And he's not going to be in good form. So I don't know what he's going to do in terms of Greg Berhalter. He might go with a 3-back against Mexico, which would be really interesting. Joe Scally, I think his inclusion makes sense. He's very good. He's actually been part of a Mönchengladbach side in Germany who's been in very good form, had a very big win against Bayern Munich in the Cup. But the problem is his first competitive start would come in a game against Mexico or Jamaica, when in reality, it probably should have came last month. So it's a little bit confusing from Berhalter's perspective. I would agree, but I think we do want to move on. But overall, I agree with Shaun. A lack of, leadership and experience. Where you're going to get some experience and leadership from Tyler Adams, who will captain the side, I would assume, tomorrow night. But other than that, there's really a lack of that leadership, especially without Pulisic, who's probably going to play 20 to 25 minutes tomorrow at the max, I would say. So the lack of leadership is going to be really problematic tomorrow. And I would not be surprised if Mexico comes into Cincinnati and wins. That's the reality of the situation because they are experienced, they have quality, and that combination with Tata Martino is really problematic for the U.S.
Now I'll go to Sean on this roster, a really lineup decision specifically, and it's in goal. Obviously, Greg Berhalter announced today that Zach Steffen will be starting over Matt Turner. Sean, what do you think?
I'm going to be honest. I disagree with it. It goes back to my loyalty point. It goes back to my loyalty point that certain guys have gotten you to certain spaces, right? And Matt Turner has been absolutely sensational in pretty much every single game, right? Tabak could agree, going back to the summer.
Yeah.
Right? He was for the Gold Cup, right?
Yeah, you got to ask Tom what he thinks.
I
Sorry,
agree too.
you agree too? Sorry, Tom. Tom, I know Tom always agrees with me. But
Not true.
that's not
Disagree.
true. Tom thinks I'm a complete idiot. But
Agree.
guys, remember, if you have ESPN Plus, St. Bonaventure women's basketball broadcaster right there, best in the business. But legitimately, right? A lot of the points I made about John Brooks and the lack of loyalty and the kind of going to a guy like Jesus Ferreira, and obviously Steffen has had that experience. You know, he was there for the final in the in the
Nations League.
Nations League. I was about to call it the Legends Cup for some reason. I didn't know what that is, but that's a thing. But Nations League, or I almost said Champions League too. But the Nations League, like we said, late in the morning, but no, early in the morning. But the Nations League, no, really good performances in there for Steffen. But then Matt Turner has just stolen the show since then. He was really good in the last set of qualifiers, incredibly good in the Gold Cup. What did he give up? 1 goal, and I don't think he gave up a single goal in the run of play. He's been the best shot stopper in the MLS, and I think he's a superior shot stopper to Zach Steffen. Now, where this comes in, though, the one thing, and I am going to somewhat justify Berhalter's decision, I am saying what I'd personally do. If I'm Berhalter, you have to remember the linkage between these two. They've been together since they were at the Columbus Crew together. They came to prominence 1A and 1B, and where Steffen does have a clear advantage to Turner to me is in his distribution, and he also has a clear understanding, a more experienced understanding of Berhalter wants. So when he brings in these younger center backs and excludes guys like Tim Ream and John Brooks, who are experienced players who have been there for a while, when he excludes those guys for these younger players, some of these younger center backs, you know, maybe Joe Scally's going to get started, DeAndre Yedlin, who hasn't been a consistent part of the Greg Berhalter system. When you have that lack of experience, what you want is maybe more experience in net. So I totally understand that somebody who could, pick it apart, who can, you know, when things get hairy in the back and they just need Steffen to bail them out, go with the guy with the superior distribution. Turner's had some shaky moments in distribution. If you go back and look at the tape, it's really true. You can go back, see that, you know, some of the long balls have been a little bit sketchy. Maybe he takes an extra touch. Maybe he doesn't play the ideal pass. That's where Steffen, which is one of the reasons why Pep Guardiola has so much trust in him as a backup, because of the way he plays in the possession style of football he plays. That's somewhere where Steffen thrives over Turner. So I think that's where that decision comes in. But nonetheless, I feel like this game is going to come down to, can that goalkeeper make the big save? Do I think Steffen can make the big save? Yes, I know he can make the big save. But I know a little bit more that Turner can, in my opinion, from off of recent form. I've seen him basically carry the New England Revolution to a supporter shield. I've seen him basically be the most consistent part of a Gold Cup run. I feel like he could do the same thing in this Mexico game if he was given the chance. He is not. I would have went Turner, but to be honest, I do understand the decision.
Now we'll touch on just one more roster lineup decision. Again, more lineup, and that is Christian Pulisic not starting game 1 against Mexico to block. I know you had a reaction to this. What do you think about Christian not starting game 1?
Yeah, I actually wrote about it, so we'll probably put that in the description. I had an article written about that a couple of days ago, but let me plug that. Yeah, I'm not surprised. He hasn't played in 2 months, so to ask him to play in the most important match for the U.S. men's national team in a long time, not being in form I think it's pretty unrealistic. So I'm not surprised. Thomas Tuchel, who's his manager at Chelsea, basically came out and was very open about not having him play major minutes and have major, tear to his body because he's Everybody knows that Christian Pulisic, while he is probably the most talented player maybe the U.S. have ever had, his injury history has been really a major issue. So I'm not surprised. Hopefully he can make an impact, because if there is one player off the bench who can change the game in a matter of moments, it's going to be him. And really in a game like, a Mexico-US game, that could be the major difference between a win and a loss. So hopefully he can make an impact, but I still think the front three, hopefully with Pepe flying, because I assume Brendan Aronson will start on the left, and I'm hopeful that Tim Weah will start on the right, but I'm assuming that Paul Arriola will somehow find himself in the lineup.
Feels like an Arriola thing. It feels like it's going to be Arriola gets
Which makes it interesting, because Arriola, I give him credit. He is a very hard worker off the ball. He does a very good job pressing from the front, but Tim Weah adds something completely different. He's incredibly creative. He created the goal while it wasn't awarded to him because it was an own goal against Costa Rica. He made the run that got him in position to score. So I think Tim Weah is, an X factor for this group. While we're missing some guys like Gio Reyna still, Tim Weah is an X factor. So hoping that somehow Greg Berhalter does something a little bit out of the ordinary. But in terms of Pulisic, Tom, I think it's not surprising at all, considering his lack of minutes over the last 2 months per se.
Shaun, what do you think?
About Pulisic not starting, or specifically, or about like the Weah part? Like, which part would you like me to touch on?
The not starting part.
I agree with everything Christian said. He hasn't played in 2 months. He's injured. You don't want him going. This is not Mexico. USA gets chippy. It gets violent. I don't want Pulisic playing 90 minutes coming off an injury in that one. That's frank as it sounds. 90 minutes of that could be a lot. Now, would I be comfortable with 20 minutes? Sure. If it's 0-0 and 20 minutes left, like Christian said, there is no more talented player, no more attacking talented player on this roster. I think the bigger question is, how healthy is he, and should he have been included? I assume Berhalter did do all the proper research on that and does know. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there. When maybe that spot could have went to Jordan Bufop or something. I don't know. But a striker, experienced goal scorer, but whatever. But if you can get Pulisic, you can get the effect he has on the match, that ability he has to get the ball a little bit deeper than a lot of these other attackers and make something happen to facilitate play, to draw the attention of the defense. If you can get that for 20 minutes, if you can draw that just magic quality he has, that instinct he has to just make things happen. If you can get that and harness it, and you can get the most out of it for 15 to 20 minutes, he can change a game. So yes, if he's healthy enough, there's no reason he should not be included for a game as big as this one, because you bring your best and most talented players. But he should not be playing for 90 minutes. We'll talk about the Jamaica game depending on what happens with the Mexico one. But honestly, he should not be starting. Christian hit that one right on the head.
Yeah, we're going to talk very briefly about the Jamaica match. Of course, the United States beat them at home in Texas in October, with Ricardo Pepi scoring 2 goals in a matter of, I believe it was 13 minutes. So, DeBlanc, I'll start with you again. Just briefly touch on a quick preview for that one.
Yeah, so this is a very different Jamaican side. Leon Bailey, who plays for Aston Villa in the Premier League, is in the squad. I believe Michael Antonio, who is maybe the strongest striker in the Premier League, is also available. So this is going to be a very different side. I think it could be a trap game. I said that to Shaun before we started. It's a match that seems like the U.S. should take it because, they are more talented than Jamaica. But the fact that they're going to have to go on the road, they haven't looked particularly good especially in the final third in these away matches. As we saw in the Panama match last month, they were really unable to create quality chances for Ricardo Pepi. The same thing was really similar in the Honduras match and the El Salvador match in the September window. So it's been a constant theme in these away matches. Can they pick up 3 points against Jamaica? Sure, I believe they can. But it's a match that, once again, it's going to be tight. If Michael Antonio and Leon Bailey are flying, without John Brooks at the back, it could be really shaky. So I would assume that the U.S. could do enough to get 3 points, but it's definitely not inevitable that they're going to find a way to get easy 3 points per se.
Shaun?
Christian's so smart. He's just such an intelligent young man. Look at that smile. He's 100% right once again. He's right. He did say it to me pre-show. I'll admit that. But, the expectations for this one depend on how the Mexico game goes. If you don't get 3 points from the Mexico game and then get 0 points from this game, it's unacceptable. You need to walk away with at least one win in this qualifying, in my opinion. That's where my expectations stand. At least one win, whether it comes against Mexico. Look, if you have a euphoric win over Mexico with with the squad that I've just complained about, and you can beat them for the third straight time at this point.
Yeah.
That's euphoric. You basically be launching yourselves towards Qatar next year. But if you tie or lose against Mexico, and then you travel down to Jamaica, and you don't beat Jamaica, and you made a lot of the choices you made, I'm just going to start spotlighting Greg Berhalter. You do not fire him or anything before the 2022 World Cup. He's earned that much in my eyes, no matter what. But nonetheless, he's made some questionable roster decisions to go back to those. And with that said, when you make questionable decisions, they need to pay off into results. So I am expecting 3 points, but DeBlock's right. This could be a trap game. 2 experienced, dangerous players in Bailey, in Antonio, inexperienced back line once again. Could be a recipe for disaster, and I would not be shocked if you see Chris Richards start one of these 2 games. So if you have Chris Richards starting at center back, 21-year-old, against a guy as strong as Michael Antonio, for me, that's going to be the best test of his potential yet. And it's going to decide how excited or maybe lost your expectations as the U.S. men's national team faithful is of him.
Great. And now, I know we only have 2 more games left in the 2021 calendar year. So I just want to get a quick assessment from you guys. Of course, the Nations League, Gold Cup, now World Cup qualifying. I just want a quick wrap up because, again, I know we have a few friendlies in December, but it's really just these 2 World Cup qualifying games that are left. What are your overall thoughts on the 2021 calendar year to date, and what do you think? And what are your predictions, for the November slate of the World Cup qualifying?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Yeah, overall, I think this year has been a pleasant surprise. I think, we expected the team to perform much better than they have of late, especially coming off 2018. But, the winning the CONCACAF Nations League was the start of things. I didn't really think we were going to be able to do it, but we battled in that match and found a way to win. And then the Gold Cup is probably even more surprising. We got a chance to see, per se the B or C team, which a lot of people consider them as. And they found a way to beat Mexico, not with their best side, but a much stronger side than the U.S. team. So, those 2 trophies were really important. But overall, I think, what we've seen so far in World Cup qualifying is a team that lacks experience, especially on the road. But when they're able to put their talent together, I think it's a team that is probably better than Mexico at this moment in time. Mexico's got an aging squad. All of their goalkeepers are above the age of 35, I believe. They really lack, speed and agility in certain positions, but they still have that experience. And that's what the U.S. are missing. And I think that's the difference between the 2 sides. Whether that gap can be bridged, in the next year or 2, we'll see with Greg Berhalter. I think he's going to be under a big spotlight. Like Shaun has mentioned, he's under a lot of criticism with his squad selection. Whether it pays off in November, we will see. In terms of a prediction for these 2 matches, I'm going to settle at 4 points. I think we are going to get a win, whether it's against Jamaica or, the Mexican side in Cincinnati. If Mexico find a way to win, I am really nervous about the Jamaica match because I could see our team falling into a pit where they're very nervous on the road. And when you play nervous against Jamaica with the quality we've mentioned, that could lead to another loss. So I'm, a little cautious this time, but I believe we will find a way to get a win and a draw in this window.
4 points I'd be ecstatic for. I'm not going to lie. 4 points would be ecstatic. I'm hoping for 3 to 4. The way I'm looking at it right now, World Cup qualifying works for CONCACAF. Top 3 teams in the standings automatically get in, right? Well, Mexico number 1 right now, United States number 2, Canada number 3 with 10, Panama 4 with 8, Costa Rica 5th with 6. The 4th team goes through like a interconfederation playoff. So the way I see this is, I want to leave. If I'm Greg Berhalter, I want to leave the 2022 calendar year in 2nd place at the bare minimum. That Panama loss really hurts because if you beat Panama, if you beat Panama or if you tie Panama, you're in the same place. But if you beat Panama, I believe you would actually be tied with Mexico on goal differential for first place. Actually, I think it'd be the exact same, and I think the head-to-head, or I don't know exactly how far the deeper the tiebreaker
We
is.
would still be in second as of right this second.
Well, the goal differential would be the same. We are in second because if you beat Panama, assuming you beat them 1-0, then your goal differential goes to +7 because it was 6 before that.
Two goal swing, right?
Yeah. So if you beat them 2-0, because it's +5, they lost one, so it's +6 before that. You go down to -5.
Sean giving us a math lesson at this point.
Yeah. Sorry. I got like a B in math. I'm not even gonna lie, like a B-. Like I suck at math. There's a reason I do journalism and stuff. I can't add, I can't multiply, I can't divide, and like personally, like who cares? But
shut up either.
nope, and neither do you.
I say go on for 13 straight minutes.
And that's the longest you've ever stayed quiet. But legitimately, if you could get 4 points, if you could get 3 points from this, you pretty much secure yourself in the top 2 or in the top 3, definitely likely in the top 2 with the striking distance of getting back in the second in a place of comfortability. So that's the expectation for me, and that's where I want to be at. But as a whole, as long as you're in that top 3, I'm still content for now. And you walked away with 2 trophies the entire summer, right? You won both tournaments. It was the most successful period in maybe U.S. men's national team history. It was one of the most euphoric moments, arguably up with that 2002 Final 8 World Cup run. It was one of the most euphoric moments in American soccer history. So with that said, Berhalter gets at least an A- from me for the entire year if it was a report card grade. Matt Turner gets an A+ for me for what I've seen club and country. You're really excited about the guys like Ricardo Pepi, Joe Scally. Brendan Aaronson's had some really nice overseas minutes. You're seeing some really nice young talent really start to ascend. Weston McKenzie is starting to insert himself in the Juventus side. You have a lot of reason to be excited, and that's what you have to focus on. No matter what happens in these qualifiers, so much I talked about for 13 minutes about John Brooks being excluded, and I apologize for that, by the way.
No, you don't.
But as much as I talked about that for 13 minutes, I lost track of time. It's still been a more than successful 2021 calendar year. And there's nothing more you could ask for out of this team at this point.
Well, there we have it. Again, November 12th, U.S., Mexico, and Cincinnati, Ohio, and November 16th, U.S. against Jamaica to round out the 2021 slate of the World Cup qualifying match. And like Sean mentioned, I'll mention it real quick. The table, the standings, in first place, Mexico has 14 points. The United States is in second with 11. Canada is in third with 10 points. Panama is in fourth, so they are outside of the automatic qualifying and would be in the Interconfederation playoff with 8 points. And then Costa Rica, Jamaica, El Salvador, and Honduras round it out. But for Tom Seipp, Shaun Chornobroff, Christian the Block, I kind of messed that up a little bit, but I'll just go with it. Thank you so much for watching. This is TWSN exclusive United States Men's Soccer World Cup qualifying preview in the month of November. Yes. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our Patreon. Thank you.